All right, thanks so much for joining me, Matt. Everybody, this is Jason from Fraser Valley Rose Farm. I'm joined by Matt from High Country Roses. This is a real treat. We've been talking for a while about how to grow roses. He's been giving some tips on how to propagate roses. I would dearly love to get down there and visit High Country Roses in Colorado and see the operation. But something we thought would be fun was to talk about some of our favorite roses. And so I've got something on the screen here. Hopefully, it all shows up that we have a slide that was a social media post made by High Country Roses last year. They got tons of engagement on it, and it tackles one of the important questions about roses. How do you choose just one out of a great group of roses? So on this first slide here, Matt, you highlighted three different roses, Earth Angel, Koko Loko, and Princess Charlene de Monaco. And maybe tell me your thinking on why you picked those three roses to highlight together. And then I'm going to ask you the tough question, which is to pick just one of them.
Jason, I picked those three, and the reasoning was really, really simple. Those are three of our best-selling roses, basically since the pandemic times, so the last 3 or 4 years. So reliably, one of those is our number one selling rose, and all of them are fabulous, which makes it kind of a fun exercise because it's something that we hear. Sometimes people just only have space for one rose, or they're trying to make a decision between, some difficult choices. So in this case, I would grow all of them and do grow all of them. But if I had to pick just one of these, I would stick with Koko Loko. That rose, I don't know exactly what it is, but the coloring on it is just so phenomenal. I've heard people call it coffee or russet. None of those do it justice. It's just such a layered, intricate coloring. It photographs fantastically, which is probably one of the things I love most about it. It's just a reliable performer in my garden, and just always blooming and always looking great.
Yeah, what an amazing rose, and you've got some great pictures of it up here. Those are sourced from your website. I hope you don't mind that I nabbed those for the video here.
Oh, you are not alone, Jason. They seem to find their way around the internet really easily.
Yeah, they make it around, don't they? And it's hard to prevent.
Yeah.
But what great pictures! And it reminds me, speaking of your pick here, it reminds me of another rose I love, which is called Distant Drums, in
Oh,
that
yeah.
same coloration. Looks perfect for about a day. Then it goes to a
Mm.
different color. But Coco Loco, I hear, has a little more stability in its color, which is wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Distant Drums is a Dr. Griffith Buck rose, phenomenal rose. But the problem we run into constantly, we just can't grow enough of them. It's a difficult propagating rose. While the color, you're right, is very similar, it kind of goes into those dusky purples. It does fade out a lot faster. And Coco Loco is much more resilient in terms of color, in terms of brilliance, I would say too.
Perfect. Well, I gotta say, I love your pick. I actually would pick Princess Charlene de Monaco.
That's a 1A for me. I'm with you though.
I know. But look at those. Just look at
I
those
know.
blooms. I mean, the frills, the color. I am a sucker for the warm colors. So
Mm.
and strong colors, I have to say. And so if you give something that's a little bit blush, I'm like, yeah, that's charming. But I want that punchy color. And what also we cater a lot to, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, is people are saying, I want to do cut flowers. And all three of these picks are, very sought after by cut flower growers, but I've heard wonderful things about the vase life and the overall handling and just the impact that Princess Charlene de Monaco has in bouquets. So that's why I would give it my top pick. Did you want to say something about the one we didn't pick for a second? This one up here.
Let me add one thing about Princess Charlene because I do
Yeah.
love that rose too. And I grow it in my own yard. And just so you know, we're here in Colorado. We're kind of we're what I like to refer to as a tough zone 5. So we're right up against the mountains. We get crazy wind and oftentimes get some pretty serious winter storms in as well. So it's kind of like a tough 5. That's a good way to put it. And this rose does so well for me. It's one of the most hardy hybrid teas I've ever grown. I don't think I've had much dieback on it at all. And I've heard stories about that from people even growing it in zone 4. And just the hardiness on it is a little bit of a differentiator. It really is. It is a special rose for sure.
That's really good to hear. Up here, we're I'm going to say a hard zone 8. That's not
Yeah.
very hard. Right. So we get away with it. And so I can't really evaluate things so much. We get a one winter wind come out a year and it's cold and a few things, the teas, the literal tea roses will take a little bit of damage, but nothing else really shows it. So it's good to hear from a perspective from a place that has a colder climate to test it out. Now let's look at Earth Angel. And I have to say, the one thing about it that I can comment on right away is because we're in a wet climate. And
Mhm.
that bloom form, that globular bloom form in wet weather, it can be a problem. It can actually end up balling pretty good, and then thrip season comes off, and getting clean blooms off of Earth Angel. I mean, it's gorgeous, and I get good scent off of it. And early season, when it's cool, I get good color on it as well. In the summer, it tends to go to white almost,
Mhm.
and I have a hard time either during thrip season or in wet season getting good blooms off it. What's your experience with it down there?
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. And, that's always kind of the worry with those globular blooms that they just don't open. And we always say they kind of look like dirty toilet paper sometimes on your roses. I don't put that rose in this category though. We have really good luck with it. But again, we're in a place that, as wet as you are, we're the other direction dry. So, we're irrigating everything. I've got and they really have a great opportunity to open here. So we do get that rose opening and opening full. Um, I don't hesitate to grow it at all. And I think the genetics behind it, it's a clean plant. It's very disease free or resistant rather. And I think it is really powerful bloomer. It definitely has the quantity and color to go with it. But I know what you're saying too.
Yeah.
It does tend to get a little lighter in warmer temperatures.
Well, I put it in the category here of worthwhile to grow, even in
Hmm.
our climate, even in a wet
Yeah.
climate, because I love the blooms so much. I actually compare it, and this is a nice segue here, to Eden, which is in our next group here. I have the next slide here is can you pick just one? This is inspired by your format, and I've put together three romantic climbers, I call them.
Yeah,
Eden, Colette, which also looks very old-fashioned and romantic.
it does.
Third one because honeymoon is romance, right? So we'll go.
Right.
So of those three, and I compared the Earth Angel to Eden in terms of bloom form. What would you pick out of Eden, Colette, and Honeymoon?
Oh, we are again splitting hairs here. All great roses. I would grow all of them. But you know what? I have been most impressed with Colette over the last couple seasons we've had it. It has really taken hold and been a popular rose with people. It's been very healthy in the greenhouse. Unfortunately, where I live, I don't grow any climbers in my own yard, so I don't have great experience with that, but I do know a lot of people growing it. It grows fast and it's a very healthy rose. And I think the bloom shape and color are phenomenal. And so I really recommend this rose a lot for people. It can be grown in a lot of different ways with climbing roses. You can definitely use it as kind of a pillar. It's definitely got a lot of that vertical growth habit to it. And so a lot of the climbers we see in the market today are really kind of more tweeners. They're kind of shrubs that climb or climbers that shrub. And Colette's really kind of a true climber, a bit of a throwback and just a dynamite looking rose.
That's a great pick, and I love the color. That is totally my color range. And so I have to do something a little off kilter here. Is I'm going to pick Honeymoon. And
Ah,
I said I don't love the pastels, right? Well,
yeah, yeah.
I guess I'm wrong about that because when I see this, honeymoon for me, it comes off sometimes a little bit pinker, sometimes a little bit yellower in its early bloom or more ambery. But it always comes out to that blush in the end, a clean, almost white blush. And I love its trainability. That's one thing I'm going to say
Hmm.
about it is, I mean, no, you said Colette straight upwards, right? Which is wonderful. Honeymoon has these thin stems or canes that you can train horizontally. You can train it whichever way you
Hmm.
want. It's super trainable. Doesn't let down in terms of its number of blooms and flower clusters. I love the form. Look at that romantic bloom in the center there. Very old fashioned. So honeymoon would be my pick out of this group, which isn't to say that Eden is not wonderful. Because look at those pictures, eh?
Hmm.
I mean, but Eden really doesn't need a push. It doesn't need my help. Everybody
No, no, yeah.
everybody loves
Plenty
Eden,
of
right?
people know about Eden, that's for sure.
It has that those cream colored blooms with pink edges. Once again, I will note, and I hope your experience follows mine, is that it is much stronger colored in the spring or in the fall when we have cooler weather than it is, or holds that color better than it does in the summer when sometimes it does fade out to yellow, or sorry, fade out to white almost.
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely agree with you there. I think the beauty of Eden is really in the blushing and in those early season blooms where you get the color around the edge of that Eden. I think it's just such a gorgeous plant when it's at that stage. But yes, you're right. I've seen it, fade out a little bit in warmer temperatures. And, Eden's a little bit of an older plant. So it's definitely been tried and true and is definitely a great rose in gardens. The one thing I would say about it, in my experience, has been it's a bit of a slow grower. So, if you've got the patience for it, it's fantastic. If you're looking for something to like zip up your wall, it might not quite be the best, fastest growing rose you ever saw.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. It's almost the opposite of honeymoon in that regard. I mean, honeymoon has thin
Mhm.
canes, but it takes off quickly. Eden wants to build some bigger canes on it, and it takes a while to do it.
Mhm.
So you have to have patience, and you have to accept a couple of those flaws. And again, in our wet West Coast climate, you have to accept that certain times of year you're going to have wet weather, which can ruin the blooms. Thrips can ruin the blooms as well in the summer. But basically worth it for the perfect blooms that you get. So I'm going to move on to our third and final group here. I didn't want to keep you all day. I know you're probably busy with shipping season down there in Colorado.
Oh, the greenhouse is hopping these days. That's true. I left everybody this morning to come talk to you, and they were all like, "When are you going to be back?"
Yeah, they're grumbling in the sidelines somewhere.
Yep, yep.
So I've got the third group here. I wanted to go with the purples, the deep purples, and if you could only pick one out of Ebb Tide, Plum Perfect, or Perfume Factory, that's the choices I put together here. What would be your pick?
Oh, I tell you what, this one was the easiest one for me because I love the rose Ebb Tide. And the reason is it is solely based on the color. I mean it is as purple as the purple crayon in the Crayola box. And it is just a reliable performer, just a great healthy rose. Those the Weeks genetics tend to have that really shiny foliage and healthy plants, and Ebb Tide is 100% in that category.
I can't disagree with you. And it would have been my first pick too, I have to admit. Maybe I will highlight another one just to
Yeah,
be contrarian, let's call it. But
yeah.
no, Ebb Tide is my first pick. I love the color, and especially when you get it, it's variable, right? It's another one of these
Mhm.
ones that can bloom very purple in some weather and a little bit less so in other ones. But I love Plum Perfect, super
Mhm.
consistent.
Yeah.
And that, I mean,
Oh,
just such a powerhouse and super consistent. Not as big as
mhm.
other purple roses that I've seen. I've seen, Neptune and the ones that want to climb like giant. But Plum Perfect is you know uh, compact, well formed, and always in bloom and consistent blooms, holding their color very well, which is my experience with it.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, I think the blooms on Plum Perfect are a little smaller, but there's probably more of them, frankly. So I think as a shrub growing in your yard, it's almost a bigger show. We've had this for several years and just it's constantly blooming in the greenhouse, which is always a great sign, right? So it starts putting on blooms this time of year and it won't stop until honestly Christmas time. So I have nothing bad to say about Plum Perfect. And I think as again a 1A, it's a fantastic choice.
Awesome. I'll throw in just one more slide here. This is a picture from your nursery. Is a Perfume Factory. Great photo, by the way. Uh,
Oh, thank you.
and can you tell me a little bit about, because actually it's one of the ones in this slideshow that I haven't grown it.
Well, it is new from about, I'm going to say maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And to be honest, again, it's one that took us a little bit of time to kind of dial in on the production side. So in the first few years, we were just having trouble getting it going and getting started. Um, but we figured it out. We've got it put correctly in our schedule, and we're getting it enough time and enough enough good sunlight and nutrients to kind of get those plants beefed up because it is a little bit of a slow grower and a little bit of a tough rooter. But once it's going, Jason, this is probably the most fragrant rose that we've got going. It is truly amazing. And when you stick your nose in there, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just got a very intense, kind of fruity. It is a perfume factory, if you will. So,
Okay,
um,
I've got to go out of my way to get that then.
yeah, yeah.
As you know, visitors and people who want to buy roses, that's like very high on the list. So good fragrance, that's a great selling point.
Yeah, yeah. I always say, it's the first thing people do, right? They walk to the greenhouse, they stick their nose in the rose to see what it smells like, and Perfume Factory does not disappoint. So it's another one though that you do just have to be patient getting it started. And I think mine here in the yard took maybe 2 seasons to really be into its own, but it produces tons of blooms and lots of fragrance, even in the windy conditions we've got here. You still have that intense fragrance. It's a good show, that's for sure.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining me today. Some tough choices that we had to make between three wonderful groups of roses. I appreciate your time, especially during the busy shipping season. And thank you so much for appearing and helping our viewers with these tough choices.
Absolutely, Jason. Yeah. And that's the name of the game. Sometimes we got to make tough choices. And this is a good way to kind of sift through some of those choices that people have to make, to make a good decision for their yard.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Matt.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jason.